Installing is usually easier. Alright guys, welcome to another video from XF Motorsports, and quite a lot of you guys have been complaining why every single video on this channel is about taking half a car apart, putting some V12 engine in some other car, and there's not too much simple repairs that everyone can follow along and repair on their cars. So in this video, there's not one but two cars that we need to do some simple repairs on. There's an ML63 that has a broken air suspension, and it is a 63, so it has some work on the engine we have to do, replacing the head bolts and finding out what else is not right on the engine. And we also have a C63 over here that has engine mounts that we need to replace on it, and also the head bolts and all the common 63 issues that we need to get to looking into. So yeah, let's start off by showing you guys both these cars, talking about some of the common problems to look out for in these cars, and then getting into fixing all of them. So starting off by showing you guys the ML63 AMG. This is a 5-seater SUV that has a massive 6.2 liter V8 AMG engine in it, making about 500 horsepower. So yeah, it looks like a nice SUV on the outside, but when you drive it, it definitely feels like a proper AMG. The person's plan later with this car is to add a supercharger or something to get more power out of the engine, make it even more extreme than it is, and so that's why he wants us to look over the engine, make sure that it's ready for boost. If there's anything that might go wrong, he wants us to replace it right now. So of course all the modifications are something that hopefully you guys are going to see a video on that one later on, but for now, for this video, yeah, we're just going to be fixing it all up so that it's ready for all the future modifications that would be done on it. So showing you guys the second car. This one is a C63, came all the way here from Montreal. The person owns a company over there called Pro Wheel Repair, so definitely check it out if you are from there. And yeah, it also has some pretty cool wheels on it to stay true to its name. And showing you guys all the things that we're going to be doing on this car. I'm going to be starting off by replacing the engine mounts. Engine mounts are a pretty common problem in cars of this era. Pretty much they go bad. They're like hydraulic engine mounts. Over time the rubber hardens up and it cracks, and then all the fluid leaks out of it, and then you basically end up with rubber sitting on rubber, and the whole chassis starts vibrating like crazy. So it's a pretty obvious thing when it goes bad. And the bad thing is replacing those is not that easy. The engine mounts are located right over there in that little corner. I'm not sure if you can see them underneath the exhaust manifold. Getting to them is a little difficult from the top and also from the bottom, but I'll show you guys how to get to them. And after that, we're also going to be getting to fixing some other 63 problems on this engine, because this one was also the engine that came with the older style of head bolts. So we need to take the valve covers off. We need to see which head bolts it has, and if it's the older style, we of course need to get to replacing it. We need to check the buckets at the same time, and yeah, all the general things that break on these engines, which I'll talk about as we go along. For removing the engine mounts, I started off by removing the top two bolts, because these are located at a really awkward location underneath the exhaust manifold. Mercedes does have a special tool for this, but their special tool doesn't really work, which is why we've made our own tool that we still have to modify pretty much for every different model, but it still kind of makes it easy enough to reach those top engine mount bolts. Once the top bolts are out of the way, there's a few more bolts to remove from underneath the car to get the engine mounts out entirely. So after quite a few awkward bolts, now the engine mounts are in place, and you can see now there's two new engine mounts over there. No more leaking old engine mounts, and hopefully the car should be a lot smoother now next time we do start it. I'm also going to get to the transmission mount a little later. That's a lot easier than these engine mounts, so that shouldn't be too bad. But right now, before I can get started putting all this steering rack and all these covers and stuff back together, I do need to change one more thing, the inner tie rod end on the steering rack. So this is a really good time to do it. Let's get started with this one. Okay, now that everything with the engine mounts is finally done, next it's time to move back to the transmission mount, which lucky enough is not even half as difficult as the engine mounts. All we have to do is remove these 2 bolts, 3 bolts at the bottom, and then the whole mount comes out, and I can replace it with this new one over here. Okay, so now everything underneath the car is done. Next I need to get to removing the valve covers so that we can have a look in the good condition inside the engine and also change the head bolts. But I'm going to be doing everything on this car in a bit of a rush, so I won't show you guys everything, but for the ML, then I'll show you guys the full process. And so after quite a bit of work, we have been able to replace all the head bolts on the car. Now you can see the new head bolts in there. Here's the old crappy ones that came out. They came out all rusty and stuff, like they always do actually when you replace them. So yeah, now we just need to put the camshafts back in, the cam adjusters at the front, which we also changed the plates on, and then yeah, just bolt it all back together. And after that we're going to be doing an alignment on it, which I'm going to show you in a bit more detail, and then after that it's going to be on to the ML. So the C63 is all done, running normally right now. The person is here to, of course, pick it up, drive it all the way back to Montreal. And let's actually take it for a test drive first, because we did fill in a bit of coolant. I believe the coolant level is still going to drop, see if the alignment is fine, and then it's going to be back to a long drive home. Yeah, it definitely seems like it still has all its power. Driving straight, steering wheel is perfectly fine, yeah, nice. Okay. Nice. So the car is all done. Now it's well, almost ready to go back to Montreal. We just got to check the fluids and everything, but of course the person also has a wheel repair shop over there that he can tell you a lot more about than what I know about it. So
I own a wheel repair shop in Montreal called Pro Wheel Repair. We specialize in wheel repair, powder coating, welding, and you guys can follow us on Instagram. We do some really extreme work for any types of wheels, any types of repairs, and give us a follow.
Yeah, I'll link the Instagram and all their information in the description below. Okay, so now that the C63 is out of the shop, next it's time to get started on the ML, which is leaking the air suspension pretty bad. You can actually hear the air leaking if you listen carefully. It has these airbags, of course, on inside every strut, which inflate with air, and that's what keeps the car level. And when these air struts get old, the airbags basically crack up and they start leaking air. And then the problem is, every time you leave it standing, it sags down like this. Every time you start it up, there's an electric pump that starts running, and that lifts the car back up. But the problem is that eventually this problem gets so bad that the leak is faster than how fast that, well, either it could get to a point where the leak is so bad that the pump can't overcome the flow that it's leaking out, or the pump just keeps trying and then it burns out completely, and then your car never gets up, and then it sags down like this in the middle of the highway when you're driving, and that's of course not too good. So before that happens, we are going to be replacing the air struts, but before we get to replacing them, we have to get to doing the same things that we did on the C63 on this engine as well. But this time I'm going to show you guys everything in more detail because I have a little more time with this one. So we're going to start off by removing all these plastic covers, of course, taking off the air filters, then the valve covers, and then taking out the camshafts, and then finally we're going to get to the head bolts, which then of course we're going to be replacing with the new ones. And while we're in there, we're going to be inspecting everything else, because of course the person later on wants to modify this car. He wants to make sure that the car is ready for more power, so that when he does those power mods, he doesn't run into any more issues with this one. So here's a first look inside the engine after the valve covers are removed, and now you can see the camshaft, the older style of head bolts in there, and well, also the big massive headers that are on this car. This car did have a pretty loud noise actually. I guess I'll record the sound once I put everything back together, but the camshafts themselves, they're looking okay right now. This is pretty common to see on pretty much every M156, that the cam, like the heat treating is gone from the cam lobes. They start wearing out after that, but right now these cams are at a pretty okay point. They should be fine right now. Eventually what happens is that these lobes wear out completely. They get to a fairly low point, and then they don't even open the valves properly, so the engine runs really rough, and then you have to replace the camshafts, of course, to fix that. On the front, there is quite a bit of oil leaking. You can see over there. That's from the gaskets that seal this front cover, which we're going to be replacing, of course, when everything is apart. So that leak should hopefully be gone. And yeah, next let's start off by taking these covers off, then bring the engine to timing to 40 degrees on the crankshaft, and then removing the cam adjusters, camshafts, and then getting to finally replacing the head bolts. Okay, so apologize, I skipped a few of the steps over here. I've already removed the camshafts, but that's easy enough anyways. You just remove all the bolts that are holding the cam caps in place. You remove those, the camshafts come out. Just make sure to keep them in order, of course, because all of them have to go in the same sequence they came out in. And underneath, everything is looking fairly good. The buckets on this car, luckily, are not too worn, so I'm just going to leave those in there. I've changed the head bolts on this side already. I have to do the head bolts on the other side now, so I'll show you guys how to do that. And then after that, I still need to have a look at the cam adjusters. We'll do that, and then we just need to give everything a final cleaning and start putting everything back together. So everything at the top is done with the ML. Now we just got to do a quick oil change and also clean up everything underneath, because it's pretty messy. You can kind of see all the oil that was leaking on that car, like on the air conditioner compressor and everything. That was probably from the front cover seals, that gaskets that I already changed. So hopefully that should go away. But other than that, yeah, I'll do a little bit of a cleaning over here, drain the oil, fill the oil in, of course, and then the car should be good to go. What do you think, Stefan? Everything looking good?
Looks oily.
Looks oily. Does it need any Stefan fixing or no? Any
I
hammer?
don't see anything I need to cut off, no.
That should be good then. Okay, so now we've done the oil change, we've put everything back together, and now it's pretty much time to, well, start up the engine. I still have to put the cover back on, but Stefan is really happy with this one because the engine cover says Stefan on it. This is the first one we've seen that's...
And the right spelling too, so you know he's a good guy.
Yeah, it's hand built by Stefan. If you get one of these, you know that the engine is hand built with an angle grinder and a hammer.
But it looks like he put the plate on crooked, so I can definitely believe it's a Stefan who built it.
For sure, yeah. Let's see if the Stefan and, well, everyone else who worked on it now has done a good job on it, and if it starts up and runs properly. Okay, so after about 2 weeks, now the parts for the ML are finally here, and the ML is also back here, and the air suspension is definitely not looking any better. It's leaking quite a bit. I actually parked it on a lift not too long ago, and yeah, it just goes down right away. So let's actually lift it up, take the wheels off, and then start to, well, getting to replace the struts. Here's a closer look at the air struts after the wheels were removed, and well, this one is looking really bad. It's all deflated. You can see all these little cracks in here. That's where the air leaks from when one of these fails. So that's no good. The other side is a little bit better. It's still holding pressure, but that's also, well, not too much better. You can see all the rust on it, and the crack's starting to happen, but it hasn't failed yet, I think. But yeah, we're gonna be replacing both of them. So let's get to unbolting a few things so we can take the older ones out, and then it's going to be time to put the R knots in. Yeah, it's really close. There we go. Okay, good. Good job, thanks. Yeah.
There's
all the stuck bolts and everything you have to deal with. Installing is usually easier. There we go. Okay, so now the bags are changed, the air nuts are in, everything is bolted up, and next what we have to do is, I haven't lowered it all the way right now, but I will start the car, and when the air fills up in the air nuts, it should return to its proper height, which it's slightly lower than its proper height where it's sitting right now, and then hopefully it should stay at that height and there shouldn't be any leaks anymore. So let's give that a try and see how it goes. Okay, test driving the ML after fixing everything, and so far, yeah, everything seems pretty good. This car does, of course, have headers and quite a lot of exhaust modification, so that's quite a loud noise to it. Yeah, it's loud. It has headers and a tune, and well, it should have more power than stock, but the thing about these MLs is they're heavy too, so that's why they don't feel as quick as the normal C63s and stuff, but it's pretty quick for an SUV. Plus, these ones have the four-wheel drive, so that's why they grip a little better. It makes a whole lot of noises while like downshifting and like going through the gears. It's well, I guess a little too loud for my taste, but it's cool nonetheless. Yeah, other than that, I think it's pretty much good for now. I really like this car. I really like the ML63s. They're cool cars. You can tow with them, they're practical, and they're quick at the same time. So that was everything for the, well, C63 and ML63, but the ML63 might be coming back to the shop for a twin turbo package later on, because I was working on a twin turbo package for another customer who has an SL63, and well, the ML63 person originally wanted to go with the supercharger, but now he wants to see how the twin turbos turn out, so he might be coming back for the same thing if he likes it. But for now, well, I have a few more cars at the shop. This is an Audi RS3 that I was making a flat floor for pretty much, and this one actually is a W140 S-Class with an M120 engine that is in extremely good shape. Actually, I was pretty amazed to see this car because, well, the person, he was actually a previous customer, and he told me he was buying this car, and he told me the price he was paying for it, and I was like, no way, that's like way too much for an S-Class. But later on, when he like showed up in this car, I actually saw it and I was like, holy crap, that's like the cleanest S-Class I've ever seen. Like, the condition of this car literally is better than I think I've seen in any other S-Class. The whole like all the stickers actually from the factory and everything, they're still in place. All the underside of the car doesn't have like a single patch of rust or oil or anything on it. It's like crazy to think how someone kept this car for like 27 or so years. It's a 1993, by the way, and it's in this good of a condition. You don't even find new cars in like such clean shape, so it's really good to see like well, how clean this car is. I was changing an alternator on it because, well, of course there had to be something wrong with it, but still, the only things, well, yeah, the alternator wasn't charging and there's a few pneumatic leaks on it, and I think that's probably the only problems this car has. So yeah, I will get back to fixing this one, but soon enough, yeah, you guys are going to see quite a lot more videos coming up. You guys are going to see the video from that car, making the flat floor. You're going to see the videos from that car, the twin turbo install on that one, and then of course also the twin turbo install on the SL63 that is coming up really soon, which is going to be, I believe, the first M156 with the twin turbo, and well, it's going to be the first full kit that you will be able to buy and install on an M156 for twin turbo charging it. So that's all really cool. Yeah, this is going to be everything for now. Stay tuned, hit the notification bell, subscribe button if you want to stay tuned with all these projects, and I will see you guys in the next one.